Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. It's finally Christmas season and we're starting to do a winter build, even though there's no snow around here in the game, but that has a reason which I'm gonna explain in a minute. But first of all, this is a very small cottage that we're building today and I hope you guys like it. So we're building this in Windenburg on one of my favorite lots because it has great lighting. It's called Cottage am See. I'm gonna put it in the description below as well so you guys can look it up if you want to place it here as well. So as I said before, we have no snow around, and the reason for that is so that I can see the roof and other structures, because when there is snow you can't really see anything because everything is covered in snow usually. We're gonna switch to winter in a minute just because it looks better also in the speed build. And because this is a winter build, I'm obviously more focused on making this look good in winter. But don't you worry guys, I even use terrain paints. So if you want to use this house after the holiday season, or if you don't have seasons, you can of course use it as well, get rid of the decorations, and it will also look good when there is no snow around. So I focused on making this a house you can use all year round. So let me tell you a bit more about the house itself. It's a very small house and I used a lot of patio space, as you can see here, also in the back, which I extended later on. And this house has around 50 tiles in total, so it's very small. As I said before, a lot of it is patio space outside, and this house is basically just for one sim. I tried to fit a double bed in there, but it was just not working out because it was basically in the middle of the living room. And now there's a separate bedroom, which you will see later on in the build when we move on to the interior. I tried to extend the house, but I cut all of that out of the video because it was just way too long, not very interesting, and I ended up reversing everything to the state we have here right now, just because I liked how the house looked from the outside. And I eventually made it even smaller by reducing the space on the left hand side, which you can see here, which was the kitchen area. I tried to fit in 4 chairs for the dining table, but it was just too much. And as I said before, I really wanted to fit a double bed in here, but it wasn't possible without having the bed basically in the kitchen and living room area, which looked very odd. So I decided to go for a single bed, but in the same style, which you will see later on when we move on to the interior. And I really like how the room looks now, because we have actually a separate bedroom, which is what I wanted to have here. So as you can see, we have snow now, and I did that by switching to live mode and used the weather machine just to cover everything in snow. My sim died like 5 times during the process because she wasn't familiar with using the machine and she had no skills at all, so she got electrocuted, which was a bit annoying because I had to restart the game like 5 times. And I know there are weather cheats out there, but I don't want to use them because they're very long and very annoying to use, and I just use the weather machine instead and get annoyed by my sim dying all the time. So what you can see here are piles of snow. They are debug objects, and since I use the Better Build By mod by Twisted Maxi, I have easier access to all my debug objects, and I'm kind of getting used to using the mod. I can only recommend it if you want to build more, because it really helps by sorting all your objects, and once you get used to it, it makes building much easier because it's much more neatly arranged and you don't have to look for stuff because it wasn't sorted at all. So one big problem I encountered here was basically that I wanted to have a fireplace inside, because it wouldn't be a Christmas home without a fireplace. To me it's kind of mandatory. So I included this one here, which is from Equal Lifestyle, and I really like how it looks here because it's a bit more modern and we have a bit more of a modern cottage here. So as you can see, the kitchen is very small, but I playtested it and it works. There are always people telling me I can't use the cooktops and the stove together, which are the built-in ones, which you can see here. And while it's true that they're still a bit buggy, they work perfectly fine, and if they don't work, just delete them and place new ones, then it usually works. And what I noticed is that when you place the stove first, it usually works first try. If you encounter any issues during your gameplay with the kitchen, let me know in the comments below. I also only use this combination here when I don't have any space at all to place an additional counter. because as you can see here, it's very small. We had only 3 tiles to build the whole kitchen area because I had to place a dining table as well. If you guys are interested in downloading this house, by the way, it uses a lot of packs, so be aware of that, but you can still check out my gallery for other builds. I also do a lot of base game builds if you're interested in checking them out. If you like my builds and my content in general, please make sure to leave a like to let me know, and also subscribe if you want to see more, if you want to get notified. But now back to the build. As you can see, the house is very wide also from the inside, which is kind of problematic because I wanted this to be very cozy and very inviting, very warm, which is hard when you're using a lot of white. But I didn't want to use too much browns and too much other colors inside because all of the exterior is basically white, and I felt like it wouldn't match the overall style of the house if I used too much other colors here, so I tried to reduce it to a minimum. And some objects that I wanted to use here don't even have a white swatch. I just used them in a very light brown or other wooden tone. So as you can see, at this point the bedroom was still open. I then added a wall in between the living room and the bedroom. The bedroom is very small, and that's why I decided to add this bay window here. So we have a lot of natural light in there, but also additional storage, and I feel like it makes the room a bit bigger since it's only a 3x2 room, which is actually very small. What you can see in the back here is the bathroom, which I furnished later on. And as you can see, I used the bay window here for storage, as I said before. And I feel like this is very nice to add some additional detail and make the house a bit more realistic. But it's not that easy to put stuff in there because sometimes the game says the object is outside and you will have snow on it or very odd lighting. So you basically can't put any objects all the way to the back, and they have to be more in the front to have the indoor lighting here and avoid weather effects like snow on the objects. So as those of you who watched other videos by me probably know, I like to make my houses a bit more realistic, or at least I try to make them realistic. For example, by adding everything a person would actually need to live in a house. And I felt like we had no dresser here, so I added those storage chests here, which are I think from Werewolves. I used them a bit more recently, and I really like how they look. They have some very nice swatches to them as well, and I think they fit the overall style of the house very well. There also wasn't really any space for a real dresser because the room is not very wide, so this was basically also the only possibility we had here. I then added a bit of wall art, the diploma from high school. I also wanted to have a bookshelf here, and there wasn't that much space, so I decided to go for a small nook like this one here and add the bookshelf here. I think the bookshelf is the only thing in here that's not functional, as long as the Christmas tree is in the way, which you will see later on. What I also like to do is add this rug here underneath my fireplaces, just because it looks like concrete or stone or something like that, just because it doesn't feel very safe or realistic to have the fireplace directly on the wooden flooring here. I also wanted to have a sofa, but there wasn't really any space to place it here. I wasn't even sure about these chairs because they take up so much space, but it turned out fine. I kind of like them now, and I felt like you should have some kind of sitting possibility in front of the fireplace. I also wanted to put this bedside table here in between, but it was a bit too high, so I had to size it down and use the red shelf to place the objects. On top of it, they're basically floating. If you're not familiar with the red shelf, you can use it to place objects on top of other things you can't usually put anything on, or if there are too many objects already placed on a counter, for example, you can put even more objects there without any problems. It's a very useful mod. I'm just mentioning that because a lot of people keep asking what the red shelf is and how to use it. By the way, if you want a tutorial on using the red shelf, let me know in the comments below. So at this point the interior was almost finished. I just had the bathroom left, and I wanted to add some additional details here and there. For example, these towels here, which I use because they look a bit like blankets. In case you're wondering if this chair is still usable for Sims to sit on, it is, but they will kind of glitch through the blankets or towels, so you have to remove them if you, for example, record anything, or if you don't want the Sims sitting in the towels. But if you don't care about that, it will work just fine. The Sim will use the chair just like usual, so no problems here. So at this point I was adding some additional Christmas decoration here. Some candles, some additional lights, some garlands, and also some Christmas presents, as you can see here. This fireplace is actually pretty nice because it has some slots on there which you can use to place objects. Unfortunately, this nutcracker here is not suitable for that, so I had to make it smaller and simply place it there by using the number keys. I also added the Christmas tree, as you can see here. I also sized it down a bit, and this is the same Christmas tree I used in the front of the house as additional decoration. I also added some additional lights to the wall. I really like those snowflakes here. They have a very nice warm light, and they also look very nice, so I like using them. So after the house was finished, I also made sure that the lighting is very warm. It's a bit darker in there just because I felt like it would suit the overall Christmas mood a bit better. And I removed some of the lights here, which I only had for recording the video, because initially the house was very dark because there were basically no lights in there. If you want more light in the house for your gameplay, you can of course use the dimmers or simply place more lights in there. You will see the darker lights at the end of the video where I show you the finished build. So the bathroom was a bit tricky because I wasn't really sure what to do here. We had also the white tiles which I used in the living room as well, and I decided to go for all these bronze or copper accents here. And as you can see, the bathroom was basically the last thing I did inside here, and then I moved on to the exterior to do the final landscaping and adding some more decorations. So as I said before, after finishing the build and after recording, I also wanted to make sure that this build is usable during other seasons, summer or spring for example. So I also did a lot of landscaping here and terrain painting, of course. I actually did a lot of terrain painting this time just to make sure everything looks nice during other seasons as well, which doesn't sound too hard, but a lot of plants have different tones of green here and they don't work very well together, and you can't really see that during winter here because some plants don't have any leaves at all, or covered by snow, or have an entirely different tone of green. So it actually makes sense if you're building in winter to go back in build mode and check the house when there is no snow around, especially when you plan on using the house for a longer period of time. If you want to live here during your entire playthrough, which I think is not really possible with this house here, since there is only one bedroom and actually only one bed. So the house is actually just for one sim, and if you want more sims to live here, you would have to extend the house a bit, maybe open up the bedroom, add a double bed, but there's not really any space to add, for example, a kid's room or actually just a normal bedroom for two sims. So if you want to play here with a bigger family, you would have to extend the house to the back, and I think it's possible you can also move the house to a bigger lot, of course, and try to extend it there. Maybe it's also just some kind of weekend cottage, but you can also not really take your family or friends here just because there's only one bed, as I said before. So at this point the build was basically finished. I just made some final adjustments to the house off camera. I'm also gonna put this on the gallery, so if you want to download it you can, of course. My gallery ID is in the description below as always. I also have some more seasonal builds like this one, so make sure to check them out as well. One is base game, I'm gonna put it in the description below if you're interested in checking that one out. So just in case you're wondering what all those plants here are, they're basically flowers, some shrubs and bushes. In summer they are, I think, pink and white, so they fit the overall aesthetic of the house very well. And those leafless branches you see here are basically hedges. I also added some more snow, as you can see here, and this was basically the last thing I did here just to finish up the house. Also had to place an additional roof here, which I almost forgot. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more. See you guys next time. Peace out.